This is our final panel for this afternoon. We have a lot of guests. I want to make sure that they finish up right here, but they will throw us out at 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, we will be removed. I've got Zunduri here, so I want to start just really quickly before I call everyone up for my panel. Zunduri is a survivor of, is a survivor of human trafficking. This is why we are here today. She is not only a right. Thank you. She is not only a survivor, but she is my friend, and she is a blessing that I have in my life. Zunduri survived 5 years of being chained to a wall in a dry cleaner. She was forced into human slavery when she was young. In fact, she was so thin when they found her that they thought she was a child. She was 23 years old when she was rescued. She was burned, she was beaten, she was tortured, and the family that took her obviously was charged with those heinous crimes, but I don't think anything could ever be as horrific as what these young ladies and these young girls and young boys face when they actually meet the devil, in my opinion. Something so horrific, right? But you're a survivor, Zunduri. Zunduri is a survivor now, and she is working to save other children from the horrors that she faced. And I am so grateful for her to be here today. Zunduri, tienes un minuto medio por así que puedes hablar rápido de qué tú estás sintiendo hoy, ¿ok? Hola, Zunduri.
No.
Yo estoy con el tiempo. Yo quiero que...
Yo pensé que tenía como 2 horas.
Sí, 2 horas y medio.
Pues, ¿cómo están? Bien. Muy bien. Para mí es un gusto poder estar aquí. Gracias a Dios por la vida de Rosy. Por su vida, porque podemos compartir este tiempo, pero sobre todo el corazón lo tenemos en esta causa.
It's such a joy for me to be here. It's such a joy and a gratefulness that I have for Rosie, that I have for each of you here, because all of us together can impact this cause.
Quiero decir que algo muy importante para mí es que quien salva una vida, salva un mundo entero.
I have a saying that's important for me. He who saves a life, one life, saves the entire world.
Y que yo soy parte de ese 2% de víctimas que sobreviven, y que justamente Rosy desde hace 8 años me ha enseñado el valor de un ser humano y el amor.
And I'm grateful that I'm part of that 2% that survive, then have to learn to thrive. And for me, the thing that I want to do most is to help others to also have that story.
Yo los invito a todos ustedes que sientan ese mismo amor por otra persona y ya no hacernos más daño. Es muy feo robarle la libertad a otro ser humano.
I invite you to be part of the solution, to be part of an expression of love, because it is an expression of love that will stop this scourge and that will help us to value with dignity all human life.
Quiero decir también que eres muy afortunado porque tú cuentas con la libertad de poder reír, de poder cantar, de poder vestirte, de que si te enfermas, tomar un medicamento. Las víctimas que caemos en una red de trata de personas o que somos víctimas, nos roban esa libertad de poder cantar, de poder bañarte, de poder disfrutar el sol, el verano, no sé, todo.
I hope you really highly value the liberties you have. You have the liberty to express joy, to step outside, to live life, to experience it in its fullest. We that have been in this situation do not have that privilege. We are not allowed out. We are chained. We are enslaved. So this is what we want to make an impact.
Entonces quiero decirte que eres rico y que disfrutes tu libertad. A mí durante 5 años y medio me robaron esa libertad, y hoy en día que tengo esa libertad, la disfruto, la gozo y para ayudar a esos niños que desafortunadamente caen en una red de trata de personas y para mí es maravilloso volverlos ver sonreír.
So for me, so important. Really enjoy the liberties that you have to express joy, to live. I did not have that joy for 5.5 years, but now my greatest joy comes when I see somebody that's been in a situation like I was, to see them smile again.
Agradezco todas las personas que están aquí, que han organizado todo esto y que se han unido a este corazón, a esta noble causa que es ayudar a nuestros niños. Gracias.
Thank you for being part of this noble cause.
Wow, Zunduri, wonderful. Te quiero. Oh, yeah, cómo no. Vas a quedar aquí, por favor. Okay, this is panel number 3, combating the issue, the policies that drive us. And we have a very special guest with us. We have Troy Brewer, who is going to join this panel. Come on up, Troy. If you want to talk about somebody who dedicates their life to saving children and does it so humbly, it's Troy Brewer. Please have a seat here at the panel. Y también, ¿puedes?
Uriel, fiscal general de justicia de Morelos, abogado de Caleido.
¿Abogado de Caleido?
No. Sorry. Sí, Julio César, perdón. Perdón.
Quería cambiar tu nombre nada
Sí.
más, un poquitito.
Maggie Ibañez, de Juventud de los Derechos Humanos. Maggie. Y Uriel no llegó. Uriel.
No está aquí.
¿Quién
no
más?
Está aquí. Y tenemos aquí, perdona, Irving Barrios, Mexican Attorney General.
Irving Barrios, fiscal general de justicia de Tamaulipas.
Y Uriel Carmona.
Uriel
Carmona.
Carmona, fiscal general de justicia de Morelos.
Están aquí. ¿Ok? Aquí
Okay.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I know it's late in the day and everybody's probably ready for a little bit of a break. It's been a long day, but I think of all of the children around the world that are right now in chains, children that are suffering, and children that are counting on every single one of us to save them. So I'm okay with being tired, and I'm okay with it being a long day, right? Woo! Because there's so many out there that really need our help and support, and it's silence for them, right? They probably have no idea that we're out here doing everything we can to fight for them. We're going to make this a shorter panel. Like I said, we have a 2:00 out here, so we've got 20 minutes. So I'm going to just start, and I'm going to start at the end, and I'm going to work my way down if that's okay with you. We have Troy Brewer here. If you want to talk about prevention and rescue, and you want to learn how to do it, you need to pay attention to Troy Brewer. They call you Papa Troy. You have saved and rescued over 10,000 children. How amazing is that? And I'm just going to add just a little bit more, and then I'm going to let you answer the Papa Troy question, because I think I have the answer to that. You're a humble man. We don't always see these great heroes, on television or in the news, because they're so busy working and trying to save lives that they even sometimes forget themselves. They sometimes forget that they need some rescuing too, I'm sure, after everything you've seen. So I'm going to ask you this. First, why do they call you Papa Troy?
Why? I don't know. I don't know what answer you're looking for, actually. Just because we become, I want to be able to demonstrate the Father's heart to girls and to boys that have never seen a true father figure within their life that didn't abuse them.
Explain a little bit, and Para la gente que no habla en inglés, hay gente aquí que no entiende, que no habla en inglés. Okay, you understand, pero tú no entiendes ahora. Él dice porque él quería ser el padre que estos niños no tienen, hacer un ejemplo para ellos también. Es la razón que los niños lo llaman a él en todo el mundo, en India, en Sudamérica, todos los niños que él, you rescued, you know, lo llaman Papa Troy. Es la razón, yeah. Yeah, so he wants to be an example. Talk a little bit about your organization. And then fill us in, because I know our time's limited and I want to get to policy as well. What can we do to assist in organizations like yours and do our part to help save and rescue children?
So what was the first part of the question?
Tell us a little bit about your organization and what you do.
We started out 28 years ago, doing food outreaches throughout Mexico, and then in the in the trash dumps there. Because I was approaching to be a middle-aged white man, people assumed that I was a sexual tourist, and people would bring me children and say, "You want to buy this kid?" And I would say, "Yep, I'll buy them right now. How much?" And then we had kids. And then we had to figure out what to do with them. And before long, we were building homes, and before long, we were trying to find out ways to fund it. My wife and I funded that's my beautiful bride right there. She's crazier than I am, by the way. She allowed us to mortgage our house. We mortgaged it 7 times, and we started building homes all over as we began to rescue kids. And it's grown and grown and grown, and we've been in 56 nations, and that's what we've been doing for the past 30 years.
A mí me tocó, ¿cómo me involucré en esto? Yo era una persona que quería ayudar a la gente en pobreza, les llevaba comida a la gente que vivía en pobreza. Cuando iba a estos lugares, iba a lugares inhóspitos, iba a basureros, y cuando iba allá veían una persona de edad media, blanco, y dicen, este es un predador, él quiere niños. Entonces decía, te vendemos este niño. ¿Y qué hice yo? Compré niños, y así ha rescatado 10,000 niños. Compré niños para liberarlos y ofrecer lo que ahora estoy aprendiendo hay que hacer.
So on the case of policy, I would just like to, and I want to pass this on down to my friends who do extraordinary things. I do want to say this one thing I haven't heard mentioned today. If you want to know what you can do, I want to tell you trafficking is fueled and the market is created because of prostitution. And prostitution is fueled and the market is created because of pornography. And if we say that we're friends of children, but we're also okay with pornography, we're liars. And I'm telling you guys, there's not a single child that we have ever rescued from a porno ring, and now that's mostly what we do is rescue children out of pornography rings. And the abuse is unimaginable. The abuse that these children are facing now. I want to tell you the big deal that goes with all that is the pornography that goes with that. And the reason why there's a market for it is because of the pornography that other people have seen on it. And I haven't even heard it mentioned here all day. And I really hope that people will say, it's not okay. Pornography is not okay. Right. Pornography is a legal crime scene. If you're watching pornography, you're watching a crime scene. And all of this trafficking and the trafficking of children is being fueled because of the demand of pornography, and it's one of the ways that their little bodies are exploited.
Algo muy importante, por favor, escuchemos. Existe prostitución, porque existe prostitución, existe tráfico sexual de niños. Existe tráfico sexual de niños porque existe pornografía. En cuanto a política pública, hay algo que no se ha dicho, y eso es esto. Es importante parar, no tolerar la pornografía. Todos los niños que estoy rescatando ahora son víctimas de pornografía. Y ahí a eso tiene que ser parte de nuestro discurso en política pública, y si estamos contra trata, contra prostitución, también debemos estar contra pornografía.
I spend a lot of time at the U.S.-Mexico border. I've been covering it for 20 years, both in and outside of Mexico and in Central America, and then I'm going to go to you, Attorney General. Many of the children that are trafficked across the border faced some type of abuse. Either they've been hungry or, and that I would say that's the minimal, or facing the elements, or they have faced what you have just described as the horrors of sexual abuse on their poor little bodies. And I'm going to give one quick example of what happened recently to some friends of mine at the border to put this into perspective for you. And I've run across this many times, but never one as bad as this. So I'm taking this. Tom Homan and Victor Avila were down at the border. He's the former ICE director. And this baby and mother had drowned. They eventually died when they crossed the Rio, they drowned. They tried to rescue them. They couldn't. The only one that survived, I believe, is the father. But it's about the child. The child was about 18 months old, not even 2 years old yet. And they had gone to check on the child, and the doctor said, I'm sorry to tell you that the child passed away. It succumbed to the drowning. And they said, oh, that's horrible. And the doctor said, no, wait, it's not as horrible as you can even imagine. We did an autopsy on the child. And the child, to some extent, they checked the child. The child had more than, I want to say more than a dozen different samples of different semen inside the child. And the baby's bones were so broken that the baby would have never survived this little child crossing that river. That is one example of what happens to these children. To put into perspective for all of us here right now, because I was feeling a little tired too. I was thinking, we're gonna see the movie tonight. We gotta go. We gotta get things moving, but we don't. We just have to be still for 1 minute, and thank God that hopefully none of us have ever had to face that kind of horror. So thank you for what you do every single day. And may God make every single one of us this brave and this strong that we can help save children.
Thank you.
From that.
Thank you.
I want to go to you because I think where the buck stops, it stops at the Justice Departments, whether that be in the United States or whether that is in Mexico or whether that is in Colombia or wherever in the world there is a judge and a jury. I believe that if you have a just system, you can resolve these problems. So I want to ask you, sir, as an AG, what policies have been enacted to combat human trafficking, and how do they address prevention, prosecution, as well as victim protection?
A nuestro estimado fiscal, el Departamento de Justicia, sea Estados Unidos, sea México, sea Colombia, donde sea, es el lugar donde la justicia nace a nivel de sociedad. Entonces, en cuanto a las políticas públicas de México, ¿qué está ocurriendo en términos de prevención, persecución y protección a favor de los niños?
En México tenemos hoy en día una ley fuerte contra la trata de personas que ha permitido un récord en sentencias a nivel latinoamericano y a nivel de nuestro continente, marcando un precedente porque hoy en día tenemos la explotación y la esclavitud como un delito. Antes la Constitución únicamente señalaba que estaba prohibida, sin embargo no se castigaba y hoy afortunadamente se castiga.
It's very important. In Mexico, we have an anti-trafficking law that is strong, and it's also being enforced. Exploitation, everybody can talk against it, exploitation and slavery, but we've made it a crime to have exploitation and slavery. So having a law that identifies this as a crime and then prosecuting this law is one of the things that we're doing.
Hoy el mayor reto está sobre las legislaciones que siguen permitiendo la venta de seres humanos en zonas que permite el municipio. En estados como Aguascalientes, Chiapas, Tabasco, Puebla, la misma legislación y el estado dicen en qué lugares y en qué zonas se pueden comprar y vender seres humanos. Wow. Tlaxcala también.
Yeah, this is very important. Legislation is very important, and exemptions to legislation. We actually have states that he mentioned, including Tlaxcala, Chiapas, Tabasco, and others, where within the state, they identify areas where people can be sold. Wow.
That's absolutely incredible to me. So you've identified those areas, and once you identify those areas, how difficult is it for you? I mean, and it's got to be extraordinarily difficult for you to push for justice when you are up against organizations that have hundreds of billions of dollars and people, people in their pocket that are in power. That's got to be difficult.
Cuando usted enfrenta estas situaciones, lugares donde hay intereses de cientos, miles de millones de dólares y han establecido áreas donde estas ventas pueden hacerse de personas, ¿qué puede hacer usted para confrontar a eso?
Me parece que principalmente es la denuncia y la convicción por parte de las autoridades, una convicción social y de cumplimiento de la ley para perseguir a los tratantes, a los delincuentes y rescatar a las víctimas, porque las mayores defensas que tienen los tratantes es la delincuencia organizada y la corrupción.
The biggest resources these traffickers have are organized crime and corruption. So what does that require from those of us that are public servant to go after these groups, after the corruption, and to use the laws? They've established the state, but the law itself prohibits it. So I think we have to have the courage and the community that would actually go and prosecute also in these areas.
And last question for you, sir, right now, because I think that's such an important point that you make, is working together. What can the United States do better? What can we do better to work with you, to work with Mexico in an effort to fight human trafficking?
¿Qué puede hacer Estados Unidos mejor para ser un mejor aliado en cuanto a la lucha contra el tráfico de personas?
Creo que, como habían señalado los congresistas, son las sanciones a los estados y el impulso del establecimiento de políticas públicas fuertes para identificación y rescate de víctimas.
I think, as has been signaled and said in the past, it is important to sanction states that do not fulfill these requirements, sanction them, and work to pass initiatives that identify and treat victims of sexual trafficking.
So I basically sanctioning the states that we're dealing with, the provinces, specific provinces.
Sancionar a las provincias, ¿no?
Las provincias.
Así es.
Así es. Y trabajando con el Estados Unidos también piensa que es importante hacer sanctions y agarrar a la gente que están comprando los niños y las niñas y que están vendiéndolos. También es el parte del Estados Unidos puede hacer más en esa parte.
Así es. Desafortunadamente, la ley permite estos lugares para compra y venta de personas a nivel municipal.
Yes, we must do this because unfortunately there are local laws that allow this to continue, as has been said.
That's just absolutely incredible to me that we live in this day and age and that's actually happening. And I'm so grateful to have you here, Maggie, because you can bring this home, right? Maggie Ibañez, she's Directora Ejecutiva for the Youth for Human Rights in Mexico. It's an educational program, and it's very, very important. I think that, this is a multi-pronged and multifaceted effort. We're not going to resolve human trafficking and modern day slavery in one day, but together, and that's why we have this conference today, we can meet each other, learn what each of our organizations are doing, and see how we can all effectively combat it. And I think this is one of the programs that can do it, Maggie. ¿Puede explicar, Maggie, qué es tu programa y cómo nosotros podemos ayudar a tu programa en prevenir. Gracias a Dios por ayudarme con mi español. Prevenir la trata humana.
Claro que sí, Sara. Y bueno, pues muchísimas gracias. Jóvenes por los Derechos Humanos, tenemos un programa educativo donde nos dedicamos a educar en derechos humanos, específicamente aquellos que están... sí se escucha, ¿verdad? Sí. Ok. Perfecto. Entonces, específicamente aquellos que están incluidos dentro de la Declaración Universal de Derechos Humanos. Estos son valores universales, los que están en esta declaración. este año se están cumpliendo 75 años de esta Declaración Universal de Derechos Humanos de la ONU y que fue creada como una forma en la que la familia humana se unió para impedir que se volviera a ver esta masacre, esta tragedia, esta cosa tan espantosa que fue producto de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, ¿no? Pero 75 años después estamos enfrentándonos a atrocidades inimaginables, ¿no? Cosas espantosas. La trata de personas es el delito más cruel, el más asqueroso, el más despiadado que existe. Y es el resultado de una sociedad.
Vamos a dejar que.
Adelante.
From the Youth and Human Rights Campaign, we're involved especially in training youth and educating them, forming them into what it means to implement the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We all know that 75 years ago, the United Nations passed this initiative, and it was the human family coming together to say the things that are not tolerable. And that's good. But today, even with this reality, we live in a world where the most horrendous, incredible, awful things that we've talked about, sex trafficking of children, occur, even with this reality in mind.
Exacto. Básicamente, bueno, lo que estamos viendo ahora, pues es el resultado de una sociedad que con apatía se ha resignado simplemente a tolerar y tratar de justificar lo injustificable. Y bueno, todo lo que se puede considerar maligno en la vida tiene un denominador común, y esa es la confusión. Esa maldad, ese deseo de destruir, eso que parece como un instinto perverso, tiene su origen en un profundo desconocimiento de la naturaleza genuina del ser humano.
It is important for us to realize that apathy contributes greatly to this reality. We cannot tolerate it because when we understand that this evil personified is brought as a confusion, as a deviation of what it means to be a human being, this is really what we are tackling.
Y bueno, definitivamente estamos viviendo en un mundo post-pandémico que encontró en esta apatía pues un cómplice perfecto para continuar pues confundiendo a la humanidad. Lo estamos viendo y hemos escuchado a lo largo de estos paneles del día de hoy pues diferentes esfuerzos que se han hecho para tratar de dar luz a esta situación, ¿no? Y bueno, es justo en estos momentos de más oscuridad donde la luz brilla más. Y esta cumbre es una poderosa luz. Es parte de los esfuerzos incansables de personas que día a día luchan por elevar la conciencia de la sociedad y agradezco profundamente a cada uno de los que lo hacen posible. En Jóvenes por los Derechos Humanos queremos refrendar nuestro compromiso con todos ustedes para lograr juntos una mejor sociedad. Ya lo hemos comentado. Sabemos que la única oportunidad que tenemos como sociedad es reforzar valores. Y estos valores, como los contenidos en la Declaración Universal de Derechos Humanos, pues son vitales, son cruciales para ello.
In this post-pandemic world, I think it's been a challenge to reinitiate the efforts to tackle this problem. They were heightened during this pandemic time. And in the midst of this darkness, I think it's important for us to see that the light is shining. This summit is an expression of the light that we together can bring to this world of darkness.
Y para terminar, bueno, quiero comentar que efectivamente pues la educación no es una tarea fácil, no es una tarea rápida, pero la educación previene. Y la prevención, esa sí es una solución permanente, tanto para la trata de personas como para muchos otros delitos y crímenes. Educar en derechos humanos desde una edad temprana puede ser el faro que no permitirá nunca más una noche oscura. Esa es la propuesta, eso es lo que hacemos. Y bueno, esta es una política que nosotros estamos intentando también establecer como una política pública, que se haga obligatoria la educación en derechos humanos desde temprana edad, que esté dentro de la currícula escolar. Es algo que en lo que... Gracias. Sí.
If we just affirm that we can be preventative instead of prescriptive when we focus on education, especially education in children. We are advocating for a law that will teach human rights to children because investment in prevention is a long-term solution to this incredible challenge we face. Let's bring light to this darkness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I know I've got to wrap, but I'm going to give everybody 20 seconds, 30 seconds to give one final statement. This is a very powerful summit, I believe, in the beginning of much greater things to happen in the future. If you had an opportunity to speak to world leaders right now after rescuing 10,000 children, what would that message be in short? What would your message be to them, Mr. Brewer?
Lack of empathy is the essence of evil. And if we do not act, it's not enough just to feel something terrible. You have to actually do something about it. Have a yes in your spirit, and God will make a way, and then just do the thing.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.
La empatía
And for the
es
attorney.
un enemigo de la solución. Seamos personas de empatía para marcar la diferencia.
Cierto. Y para ti, señor, si tú tenías un momento para hablar con el presidente de México, con el presidente de los Estados Unidos, con los world leaders, ¿qué tú querías decir?
Que las buenas voluntades que se plasman en las leyes tienen que llegar a la vida de todas las personas y principalmente a proteger a las víctimas. Se hace mucho trabajo a través de la legislación, pero tiene que ser una legislación en acción que puedan vivirlo las víctimas y la sociedad principalmente.
The good intention of passing good laws is really important, but once we pass these good laws, the implementation of these good laws is paramount. Without the willingness to implement and do this together, these laws will leave us short.
And finally, you, si tú tenías la oportunidad de decir algo al presidente de México o presidente de Estados Unidos, ¿qué tú querías decir?
A mí me gustaría decir que definitivamente unidos somos mucho más fuertes, sociedad, gobierno. Tenemos que poder tomar en nuestras manos la responsabilidad de hacer algo al respecto y hacerlo. Conozcamos nuestros derechos humanos, vivámoslos, seamos el ejemplo de la sociedad que queremos ver. Y bueno, que todo esto que estamos viendo, que se enciende ese enojo, esa desesperación, esa angustia, bueno, que también se encienda esta llama de saber que puedes hacer algo al respecto y que se tiene que hacer.
It's important for us to know that united, the public sector, private sectors, us as families, individuals, as we unite, we can really mark the difference. If we are conscious of the dignity that is behind what is human rights, then we can be promoters of human rights, and together as we grow in this, we can all be part of the light and the solution that this incredible challenge presents us.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for this amazing panel.
Before we